Putin's war is already hurting American families at the gas pump. Putin's price hike in gasoline, the consequence of Putin's price hike. But we've never seen anything like Putin's tax on both food and gas. Putin's price hike is hitting America hard. I'm doing everything in my power to blunt Putin's gas price hike.
So after blaming Vladimir Putin and big oil companies and individual gas station owners for soaring fuel prices, President Biden, White House, now claiming credit for some modest easing of Americans' collective pain at the pump, which we are all happy to see. Let's get into it and what we expect to hear from the president about a climate crisis in a few hours with tonight's Dream Team panel. Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall and TAG Strategies VP Erin Perini. Great to have you both back.
Hi, Shannon. Good to be here.
Okay, so this is the headline from The Hill Tuesday. Gas prices hit 2-month low in the U.S. Erin, that sounds like great news to all of us.
It's certainly great news for the American people, but Joe Biden doesn't deserve credit for it. The same way he blamed everybody else, he now wants to take credit for the work he didn't do. All he has done is exacerbate an energy crisis and decimate energy independence in the United States. You see Ron Klain, White House chief of staff, out there retweeting Democrats, praising the fact that 1 in 5 gas stations have $3.99 gas. $3.99 is expensive for gas. That's only 20% of gas stations, and gas is still averaging around $4.49 a gallon right now across the country. That's still a hefty amount of money for the American people to pay, and Democrats want it both ways. Unfortunately, they can't have that. They can't say it's not our fault, but we fixed it. That's not the reality of this situation.
Well, and they might be saying some of the inside voice stuff out loud now. Secretary Buttigieg saying the pain at the pump can actually be a good thing. Here's what he says.
Is the Biden administration actively pursuing high energy prices in order to force Americans into electric vehicles?
Of course not. The more pain we are all experiencing from the high price of gas, the more benefit there is for those who can access electric vehicles.
I mean, Leslie, the president said he was going to get rid of fossil fuels. He was going to kill that industry. And we are told repeatedly by members of this administration, just go buy an electric car, which last time I checked, pretty pricey.
They are a bit pricey, and I think it takes people a long time, I know for me as well, to make that change. But I want to flip something on its side, because the GOP's been blaming, the Republicans have been blaming President Biden for the gas prices. So now that they've come down, when you blamed him when they were up, the same rule applies that you're giving to the Democrats. You got to give them credit when the prices come down. And you can't just say he wants nothing to do with any kind of domestic oil production when you have 9,000 drilling opportunities. Again, the real blame here are the corporate oil companies, because they're not drilling with 9,000 plus permits, and they're reaping record profits, as we have seen quarter after quarter after quarter, and that savings has not been passed on to the consumer. I think regardless of your politics, anytime we can save money and see things going in the right direction, which 2 months of gas prices falling is a good thing. Hopefully it continues. And if that's the case, it's a pattern, it's consistency, it's not a one-off.
Amen to the good news. We want to see that. But we got to remember that during the COVID situation, these big oil companies lost tens of billions of dollars. They had to borrow tens of billions of dollars to keep operations going, at least at a minimum, so they could be ready. And now they're saying a third of their capacity to be able to refine has been sorted over and recalibrated to green energy. So for them to try to ramp up now, they say this administration said they were going to kill us anyway. It's tough for us to now turn on a dime and spend billions and hoping they don't mean it this time. We're going to follow that, because tomorrow the president is weighing, we're told, executive power on a couple of things. We may hear from him about climate change. We may hear from him on the abortion issue. Meantime, the vice president had this to say about how she characterizes this issue of abortion and the Supreme Court.
Our country has a history of claiming ownership over human bodies, and today, extremist so-called leaders are criminalizing doctors and punishing women for making health care decisions for themselves.
So, Erin, a couple of things. Critics there say she's likening this issue of abortion to the issue of slavery. But when she says that doctors can be criminalized, that's actually true in a number of states now.
Yeah, in those states, I mean, doctors shouldn't be criminalized if they are performing legal procedures. But again, if a doctor acts outside of the confines of the law, that's the issue where that stands. But to the vice president's point here about the fact that she is trying to equate being pro-life with slavery is fundamentally absurd within itself. And if you want to talk about where the racism actually lies in this, let's go ahead and look at the history here. Let's talk about the facts, and let's talk about the fact that Planned Parenthood was founded by Margaret Sanger, who is a known supporter of eugenics. They want to talk about what actually is happening here. That is the fact. And let's be honest, being pro-life is nowhere near and nothing like supporting slavery here in the United States.
So let's talk about this issue of national emergency or national executive power the president may take, whether it's on climate change or abortion. Reason has got a piece saying not everything is a national emergency. It says national emergency declarations are not for when a Senate won't vote or a senator won't vote the way the president wants. They're not tools of presidential blackmail to make the legislature do the executive's bidding. For all its demonstrated openness to presidential abuse, the purpose of the National Emergencies Act was not to completely invert the Constitution's design for the flow of federal action. Unfortunately, recent presidents have realized how emergency declarations might be used to that end. And Leslie, we've seen a lot of use of executive orders in recent years, and it's something that I've often found in covering the Supreme Court that they aren't super keen on, especially if they think that the executive is overreaching into one of the other branches.
I would agree with that. It happens with both Democratic and Republican presidents, and it has happened certainly more, as of late than it did years ago, whether it's being used for climate control or whether it's being used for abortion or whether it's being used for immigration or sometimes a virus. Even before COVID, we've seen that happen in both Democratic and Republican administrations. A lot of times Americans don't even know when these are being put forth unless they are, front page news. I want to touch upon what the vice president said because I don't agree with her. And just because I'm a Democrat, I don't agree with everything that the leaders in my party say. I don't like when anyone compares anything to slavery or to the Holocaust. In my opinion, there is just no comparison to either. And I've heard people do it on both sides of the aisle. But I will say, to the point about doctors, we've seen some terrible things come out this week. Women that have miscarried could not have DNCs and had to basically carry a dead baby inside of them. Women that were bleeding. I think a lot of doctors in those states are very scared. There are gray areas, as we know, in medicine. Not everything's black and white like legislation is.
Yeah, and the state lawmakers who have passed these measures say there's nothing that would prevent a woman who needs emergency care in that kind of situation. It's got to be potentially clarified for doctors then, because they say that's not anywhere in the legislation. We'll watch these cases as the country now figures this out at the state level. Leslie and Aaron, thank you both very much.
Thanks,
Shannon.